Episode 8 begins with the Thunderkittens up in the tree studying a map, because earlier they just heard from Tigra to study every area on the map, so that's what they're doing. But then suddenly, Wily Kid just told her brother that there's a tower that was never been seen on the map before that catches her eye. Then before you know it, she said, well, just like Castle Plondar, she didn't like the looks of the place. But then, long story short, the Thunderkins just heard someone being attacked and some struggling that's coming from nearby. So with no time to lose, the Thunderkins went to see what was going on. So by the time that the Thunderkins had arrived, the Wolo leader had something in a pouch that was being taken by a couple of stone statues. Gargoyles, that is. And then, before you know it, luckily for the Thunderkins, they came to the rescue. And Wily Kid and Wily Cat tries to battle the stone statues the best way they knew how. So long story short, good news for the Thunderkins, they managed to save the Wolo Traveler and the leader from the Wolo village. But now the bad news is that the robbers that caused the attack got away. Well, they're made of stone for one thing, and now the Thunderkins couldn't help but wonder where did they come from and why did they attack him. Well, the Warlord's leader was more than happy to answer that. He said that first of all, they were coming from the Black Tower that once belonged to Baron Condor once upon a time. So, when the Thunderkins had learned from the Wolo what just happened, they were more than happy to help him up, stand him up, if you will. So he continues to explain by first of all apologizing for causing the trouble. Second of all, he made a foolish mistake for taking the shortcut in the first place because he was late for his daughter's wedding and he didn't want to disappoint her. Well, the Thunderkins not only forgave the Warlord, but now it's Wily Cat's turn to apologize to the Warlord for not returning his purse. And he says, I hope they didn't take much in there. Only my daughter's wedding present, the Warlord leader said, and he confesses a gold bracelet with two hearts intertwined. But now it's gone, thanks to those robbers who got away, according to the Warlord leader. Gee, that's terrible, Wily Kid said. Yes, I'm afraid it's true, the Warlord leader said. But thanks to you two, at least I'll be making it to the wedding on time. So he bid the kittens farewell and then he heads off. So after the Warlord leader heads off, that's when the kittens had the thought in their minds. Baron Condor, huh? So that's when Wily Cat, who's Wily Kid's brother, made a suggestion that they should investigate at that tower over there. So back with the Thunderkins, they had just arrived at the exact same tower that they saw earlier that morning that wasn't on the map. So they went to the front door, and it seems that nobody has been around at that tower for a very long time. So what Wily Cat did is that he approached at the door and grabs the handle of the doorknob, while Wily Cat looks around the back. But by the time she goes back, her brother's missing, so she went looking for him everywhere, but no such luck. Long story short, after Wily Kid was worried about her brother, Lionel decided to take a swim. So, after long story short, Snarf was not amused with Lionel's practical joke, that's when the Sword of Omens had told Lionel that there was something wrong. So, just like what any good guy would do, Lionel decided to take a look in the sword side to find out what's going on. And there he saw it, Wily Kid looking for her brother, and he's lost somewhere in the tower, and she had no idea where, so she's getting worried and concerned. So back with Lionel, he rushed to the exact same tower that he saw through the sword. So he joined up with Wily Kid, and then she explains what happened. First of all, Wily Kid had explained to Lionel that her brother's previously missing. Where did you see him last? Well, he was just there moments ago. Where was he exactly? Well, he was standing right in front of the door, and when he pulled the doorknob, he suddenly just vanished, Wily Kid said. Well, by surprise, Lionel decides to use his sword to pick a lock. And then, long story short, both he and Wily Kid fell through the trapdoor just as Wily Cat did. So now they're inside of the tower, just as Wily Cat did. So back with Wily Kid and Lionel, now that they're inside the tower, they had to find Wily Kid's brother. And so they went looking for him everywhere. Luckily, he can hear them. That's the good news. Also, the good news, he's located somewhere on the top of the tower. Straight up. Well, according to Violet Cat, now here comes the bad news. He can't go anywhere to follow Lionel and his sisters because he's in a cage. Well, back with Wily Kid and Lionel, now that they know where Wily Cat is, that's when Lionel says, "Stay calm. We'll be right there. We're coming up." So both Lionel and Wily Kid saw some stairs up ahead, so they decide to walk up the stairs. Well, some of them are sticky, and most of them are slippery. Now that's a big problem. So back with Wily Kid, who's stuck at the moment, that's when Lionel, luckily for him, he grabs the one of the stairs after he slept on it, of course. So when Wily Kid was told by Lionel to grab his leg so he can pull her up, she did just that. So, good news for Wily Kid, she's free from the sticky stairs. So, now that's finished. Now two of the Thundercats had made it up the stairs, thanks to Lionel's sword, of course. Well, good news for Lionel and Wily Kid, they made it up the top. So what Lionel wants to know, what is this place? Who's it belong to? Well, Wily Kid was more than happy to explain that she said, as both her and her brother had learned from the Wolo traveler earlier, that the tower once belonged to Baron Condor. And according to Wily Kid, as legend has it, Baron Condor has been robbing people for years. Really? Lionel said. Is that so? Well, Lionel has a hunch that the reason why Baron Condor had built this tower to begin with is to protect all the treasures and to keep the robbers from taking them. Well, back with Lionel and Wily Kid, they spotted a couple of ramps, and now they're confused on which one they're going to take. Well, that problem's been solved because a cage burst comes out of nowhere to divide both Lionel and Wily Kid. But they can cover more ground a lot faster to find Wily Kid if they split up, so that's what they did. So Lionel goes in one direction while Wily Kid goes in the other. So after both Wily Kid and Lionel had agreed to meet up later, that's when they both head off. So long story short, back with Lionel after he gets netted by a carpet for a while, and that's when he saw down below an octopus creature. So after he cuts himself off, he's now face to face with the creature. So long story short, back with Lionel after battling with the creature, that's when he grabs a shield to shut the creature's mouth, and that allows Lionel to escape. So long story short, back with Kid, she now just entered a very interesting looking room that it has a bridge. So since she now knows that there's lava that's surrounding it, so she decides to cross the bridge. And of course, despite a minor setback, and then long story short, after she crosses the bridge, although despite the fact that the bridge is disintegrating, well, good news, she makes it across and without a problem. So, long story short, back with Lionel, he went into the next room. That's when he accidentally bumped into a statue, and the statue fell into a pit where it disintegrated. That's when Lionel realizes that the pit is full of acid. So, what was Lionel's plan? He decided to jump across, so that's what he did. So, despite a minor setback thanks to Lionel's claw shield, he was saved just in time. Then he climbed himself up, only to have the floor shut itself. So, luckily for Lionel, that's too close of a call. So, he grabs his sword and heads off. So, long story short, after Lionel had avoided a trap from that room, that's when back with Wily Kid, she sees the next room that is full of chairs that were lining up against the wall. She's never seen a room like it before. So Wily Kid knew that there was something off with that room, so she throws a rug. And then out of nowhere, something disintegrated that rug. So she figured, why not roll her way across? So she did. So that's what happened. So back with Wily Kid, long story short, good news, she's in the next room, but now the next trap that she's about to avoid is not going to be as simple as it looks. Or at least that's what Wily Kid thought. But nonetheless, despite a minor setback, thanks to Lionel who came to her rescue, and good thing he did, that's when they head off. But before they do that, also the good news, both Lionel and Wily Kid are not seriously hurt anywhere. So, according to Lionel, what he says in his case, since the tower couldn't get any higher than that, then Wily Kid's brother must be around somewhere. So, she shouts out her brother's name and asks if he can still hear them. Well, good news he could. So now with no time to waste, that's when both Lionel and Wily Kid went into the next room. When at first they couldn't see him, and that's when by surprise, good news, they found him. Up in a cage, no doubt. So Lionel had to ask Wily Cat a question. Did Baron Condor do this? Well, Wily Cat just pleaded his case to say he hasn't seen anybody. He's been in the cage. Next thing he knew, if you pardon the expression, he became a chandelier. So Lionel says, okay, pay attention. Here's the plan. I'll go ahead and cut the rope, and when the cage falls down, jump for it. So that's what Lionel did. He cuts the rope with his sword. And good news for Wily Cat, he managed to jump out before the cage hits the floor. So now that the three Thundercats are together again, so all they need to do is just get out of the tower. But the question is, how? At first, Wily Kid was going to tell her brother how glad she is to see him, but then she had a second thought by lecturing him to say, you see what you did? This is what happens when curiosity gets you. Nothing but trouble, she said. All right, I get it, Wily Cat said. Can we just please get out of here? Not yet, Lionel said. I want a word with Baron Condor first, he suggested. Then the three Thundercats spotted a metal door up ahead, and that's when Lionel says, if I'm not mistaken, that must be the Baron's treasure room, he said. Then suddenly, long story short, the metal doors opened by themselves, and the voice says, enter. So all three of the Thundercats went into the Baron's treasure room, and then looked everywhere, and it was pitch black. So that's when Lionel said, all right, Baron Condor, the fun's over. It's time to get serious. So the three Thundercats started to investigate. So Lionel went first to ask a question. You are Baron Condor, right? No answer. There was complete silence. Now the Thunderkins find this very weird, and they couldn't help but ask themselves, why isn't the Baron answering? Why isn't he moving? What is going on here? So back with Lionel, he asked Wily Cat to bring a lantern, and so she did. And so when she picks up the lantern and brings it over to Baron Condor to where he's sitting at, and then brings it to Lionel, that's when the Thunder Kittens and along with Lionel knew. No wonder he isn't answering. No wonder he isn't moving. Baron Condor is dead. So after the Thunderkins had realized that the Baron Condor they were about to meet is not alive at all, even Lionel agrees with them. It says, I'm afraid he hasn't been alive for a very long time, he said. Well, according to Lionel, when he told the Thunderkins, based on this evidence, that's why he rigged all those traps right here in this tower to keep people away, to make sure that nobody steals any of his treasures. Then Lionel told the Thunderkins something that Jaga once told Lionel. Jaga said that it's okay to save money and to spend it carefully, but be careful because greed can corrupt you and destroy you. In Baron Condor's case, according to what Lionel told the kittens, that's exactly what happened. Of course, Wily Cat wasn't kidding when he said, I guess Jaga sets this guy a very good example, he said. Well, Wily Kid even said in this case, if Baron hasn't been robbing anybody, even if he's not alive at all, then who is robbing everyone? And why? Well, her brother had a hunch. He says, I know this sounds crazy. It must be those stone statues that we have seen earlier. Maybe they're responsible, he suggested. But then suddenly the middle door closed and there's that voice again that says enter. And that's when the Thundercats knew. That voice was just a recording, a final trap from the Baron himself before he literally passed away. Now Wily Cat started to panic and worry and says, "Oh boy, how are we going to get out of this one?" But then wait, the roof suddenly opened up, and there's the missing bracelet. Now remember, that's the same bracelet that the Warlow Traveler had told the kittens about earlier when he was attacked. But that's not all. Wily Kid even told Lino and her brother that if that's the case, then that means the thieves who had stolen it earlier must be on a roof. Then, according to Lino, if what they said is true, then maybe it's their only way out. So they decided to have a plan to climb up to the roof. And how? Well, according to Lino, he suggested to get some oak ropes and cloaks to make it a rope. Not a bad idea. Well, good news, thanks to their idea, they made it to the roof of the tower. But now the kittens, and along with Lino, finds this very weird. There are no signs of thieves anywhere. But then suddenly, the same stone gargoyles that the kittens had met on the road had come to life. They're the thieves. They should have known. So long story short, back with the kittens and Lionel who had a battle with those statues for a while, they were soon surrounded and had nowhere else to go. Well, Lionel knows what to do. He uses his sword to project the Thundercat signal, as any good guy would do, and so that's what he did. So back with the Thundercats, Panther, Chitara, and Tigra, who had just left the lair moments ago in the Thunder Tank, they're now on their way to where the signal's coming from, the Tower of Condor, or the Black Tower, whichever the case. So long story short, good news for the Thunder Tank, it had arrived at the tower. But instead of getting themselves in, they had to climb themselves up instead. So that's what Tigra, Chitara, and Panthro did by using the grappling hooks, of course. So long story short, back with the Thundercats who were climbing up to the roof of the tower, the first to arrive on the scene is Chitara, and she just couldn't believe what she saw, and neither were Tiger and Panther who were next to arrive. Before you know it, all five Thundercats had joined in the fight to disintegrate all the stone statues. Then finally, at last, all the statues are defeated thanks to the Thundercats, all five of them to be exact. So after that battle, that's when Tiger went first to ask what was going on. What are those guys? And then Chitara went next to say, who are they? I'll explain it to you as soon as I catch my breath, Lionel said. So back with the Thunder Tank who had just left the tower, I guess it is confirmed that Lionel just told the Thundercats what was going on at the tower and that the Baron that once lived in the tower had died and etc. Next thing you know, Tigra, after he learned this from Lino, he now realizes what was going on. Baron Condor, as Tigra said, the reason why he brought those gargoyles to life is because since he couldn't go on living anymore, he had those gargoyles do all the stealing for him, even after all these years, even after Baron Condor has since passed away. Well, good news for the Thundercats in the Thunder Tank. They had arrived at the Wolo village, and just in time for their wedding. And of course, even better, the Thunderkins know what to do. Remember the traveler that the Thunderkins had met earlier that was attacked? Well, not anymore, because thanks to them, they not only returned the bracelet to the leader of the Wolos, but also in time to give it to his daughter as a wedding present. So, as you can tell, the Wolo leader is very, very happy that the kittens did that. So, by the way, the Wolos makes it number 5 on the Thundercats friends list, since they did their good deed for the day. Well, back with Snarf, well, good news, he made it in time for the wedding. And then he says, "Oh, Lionel, thank goodness you're okay." "Of course I'm okay," Lionel said. "Oh, about that prank I played on you earlier," and then of course Lionel apologizes to Snarf for it, and then he confessed that it was a dirty, rotten trick, and it should never be played on him. Well, Snarf forgives Lionel. So so Snarf pleaded his case with Lionel to say, "I know this is not fair for you, especially when there are elders out there that are worrying about you, but the reason for it is because I care about you," Snarf said. Of course, Lino also admitted that, and he happens to agree with Snarf. And according to Lino, when he said to Snart that he gets worried about him too, but for a good reason. And then, of course, Snarf happens to agree with that. So that ends episode 8.